The Barty Games guide sucked. The Brady games are terrible. They are low quality as hell. Anyways, so I hate Party Finder. I hate it. So this is Tayu, otherwise known as C. Absolutely beautiful. Now, the problem with Party Finder, really, as a Final Fantasy 11 player, is deliberate design choices were made in Final Fantasy 11 that have stood the test of time. That have right wise design decisions like forcing you to team up with other players. Now, in the modern Final Fantasy 11 experience, you don't need other players for most of the content in the game. But when you get to the end and you start working your way through end game progression, you absolutely have to team up with other people, and you're probably going to go static for that because you're going to get a group of people that basically know what they're doing by that point and everything, and the community has to come together to get that stuff done and accomplished, and this is how it should be done to this day. But today, we have what are considered quality of life features like Party Finder, but they suck in actual practice because you know as it stands, if I play with another group of players and I pick up a rando in this game, and that rando starts to royally kick ass and just absolutely is incredible at what they do and everything and really carries the day for everybody, I can add that person to my friend group, befriend that particular player and remember them because they're so good at what they do and everything, and the system incentivizes you to do that sort of thing. I remember back in the day, one of the things that was so funny is that I started playing as like a white mage, right? I came as the healer and everything, and I remember going up through Yodor Jungle and everything, and seeing how that played out and everything, and how that experience ended up being and everything, and and how that ended up tracking in the system and everything, and going up through that jungle, and everything. Like back in the day, there were these goblins that would that everybody loved to kill for the exp, and but the thing is that they would toss bombs and everything, and another group of trolls ended up realizing that you could essentially drag these mobs to the zone line and everything where everybody would be grouped up and just sit there, and another group of people, and every time they tossed the bomb it would hit everybody, and eventually they could pull a bunch of them all together and everything, and they'd keep dropping these bombs after they went to TP, and they could kill a massive group of people. And so this would we experienced the phenomenon of mass player killing that happened and everything, and to troll people, and it was a way of fucking the zone up for a considerable length of time so that you could come in and claim camping spots and grounds for yourself as well, by doing this and engaging in this, because it would take people time to get back to these places, and if you were home pointed in the right places, and where you had to re-raise up, like you could just come back after everything had reset back to its, position, and get your people back up and everything. And so you could take over a zone in this fashion and just steal one of the camps, fundamentally, if it was full. And so that created an incentive to, engage in this sort of behavior. But as a white mage, I would see the players that did this. I would make a note of who it was that did it, and then I'd start circulating their name to the other white mages, and I'd tell them, hey, if you see this player dead and or they ask for help, don't help them because they engage in mass player killing. Like we had to coordinate, we had to, to team up with other people, and everything, and to engage in, community action. And so having solidarity with the other healers in the game that made them not raise the fuckwits that engaged in trollish behavior that way was one way of getting back at them and everything for what they did and for their misbehavior and everything, we were able to really stick it to players that cheated and everything by doing this and everything. It forced you to actually befriend people, to gain a reputation, for being good at your job and everything. And if you were good at what you did, people would remember you and who you were and everything. And you'd start to kind of join the prestige class of players and everything. And, your reputation would follow you around and everything as a person who played it and everything. But that's not what it's like in Final Fantasy 14. One of the problems with the Party Finder system is that I can go the entire day, days on end, and I will not, like, I won't even have to have a fucking conversation with another human being at all. The only people that I'll be talking to at all are bots, as a person playing, and that's yeah. The fact that they forced us to make friends is something I definitely appreciate Final Fantasy 11 for. So yeah, the Party Finder sucks.